benefit overall in terms of mental health and well-being. So welcome once again, colleagues, to our webinar presentation. We want everyone joining on the platform today to benefit fully from the wealth of knowledge and experience that will be shared. To ensure this happens, I wish to share with you now a few of our rules of engagement for this session. Please mute your microphones and disable your cameras. Please also pause and/or minimize distractions as much as possible so that we have your full, dedicated, and undivided attention during the presentation. We welcome your participation in the webinar as we seek to make the session as interactive as possible. You're invited to post your questions, comments, and observations in the chat at any time during the presentation. We will monitor the chat and relay your questions and comments to the presenter. Please note the presentation will be followed by a question and answer segment. Again, we encourage you to use the chat feature to pose any questions you may have at that time. At the end of the webinar, we're going to be inviting your feedback on the session. A link to our evaluation form will be posted in the chat. Please look out for it. This morning's webinar will be recorded. The recording will be made available to you through the Learning and Development Directorate's YouTube channel. In this way, if you want to review the presentation, you will have that opportunity. Now, it is my esteemed pleasure to introduce our presenter, Mr. Chess Moulton. Mr. Moulton is a certified stress management consultant and is considered the UK's leading authority on stress and how to control it. His career spans in excess of 25 years, and he provides services in consultancy, training, and coaching. His work experience involves the design, development, and delivery of occupational mental health risk management and training programs. During his time as a business performance consultant, he served as an advisor to private and public sector organizations in Canada, Africa, the Middle East, and the Caribbean, including right here in Barbados. His most recent work involves helping those with elevated levels of stress to overcome their problems and enjoy productive lives free from the mental, emotional, and physical consequences of chronic stress. He's the author of international bestseller, Choice and Change: How to Have a Healthy Relationship with Ourselves and Others. He's also a contributor to the international bestseller, Fit for Purpose Leadership, number 3. Mr. Moulton, a sincere and hearty welcome. I'm sure everyone is anticipating and looking forward to the many nuggets of wisdom you'll be gifting us this morning. I now invite you to begin your presentation.
I appreciate that, Ms. Kerr. Thank you very much, and thank you for that kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. Good morning in Barbados. I must say, to begin with, I'm a bit jealous, but moving on from there, what I want to do today is I want to give you some information about stress and stress management and how it will be able to help you in your endeavors. So I think we could say that the goals of this presentation then will be, I want to explain to you what stress is, what it really is. And by explaining that, I'll probably tell you what it's not, and then we'll talk about what it really is. I'm going to reveal the 2 types of stress, because there are only 2 types of stress. And then I'm also going to show you some of the systems, some of the formulas, some of the things, techniques, tools and techniques that you can use to be able to get control of your stress. So moving on from there then, what's the definition of stress? What is stress? So what stress is, so my background is psychotherapy. Why I'm concentrating on stress, because over the years when I had my private practice, I realized that everything people were telling me seemed to always come down to stress. Stress was always in the equation. It was either the cause of their issues or the result of their issues, just depending on what the issue was. But when we break it down to the next level below that, then we can clearly say that what happens is that stress is what happens when demand outweighs supply. Think about that for a minute in your own career and in your own life. When the demands exceed what you're able to give, stress levels start to go up. That's just human nature. So who's responsible for all of this stress then? Well, the best way to be able to define that then and explain this to you is what I call the 3 M's of understanding stress. Let's take a look at the first M of understanding stress. So stress is not medical. Now, I know that a lot of people have a lot of health issues, a lot of maladies as a result of elevated levels of stress. As I said earlier, issues cause our stress or stress cause our issues. So there we go back to this again. But stress is not medical. Stress is the symptoms. Your medical maladies, your health, and whatever medical situations that you may be suffering from are the symptoms. They're the result of your stress. And stress is not mental. Now, I know a lot of people say, but hang on, come on, Chess. Isn't having a good, healthy, positive mental outlook, isn't that something that we would want to aspire to? And you're exactly right. But again, that when we're fearful, when we're depressed, when we suffer from anxiety, when we have those mental and emotional constructs that are keeping us back, that are debilitating, that's not the stress. Again, those are only the symptoms of the stress. So if stress isn't medical and stress isn't mental, then again, the word responsibility, what is responsible, what or who or how is responsible for this stress? Well, it comes down to stress management. It says what it is on the tin. So it's about how you manage yourself, how you manage your being in relation to any particular event. 2 people can experience the same event and have completely different outcomes, completely different reactions. So so basically then what I'm trying to explain to you now is that you are responsible for your stress, not anybody else. You, and we're gonna dive into this a little bit. I'm going to explain why I say this and prove to you that this is in fact true. You are responsible for your stress, but you are also the solution to your stress. Now, if I'm talking about you, then let's take a look at you. So as human beings, there are only 3 things that we do. Now, I know that we think that we do 100 things in a day, maybe a couple hundred things in the course of a week, and we're busy here and doing this and doing that, running around. Yeah, I get all that. But when we bring it down to the lowest common denominator, bring it down through the funnel to the bottom level, there are only 3 things that we do as humans. There are only 3. And those 3 things are: we think, we feel, and we behave. Now, behavior can be subdivided into actions and reactions. So you're either proacting or reacting. There's no third acting. There's only those two. So as humans, then everything that we do, all those hundreds of things that we do in the run of a day, the run of a week, can be put under one of these categories. We think, we feel, and we behave. We're either proacting or reacting. Now, since we're humans and the planet Earth is our native planet, I don't know what the aliens are doing, but I just know what the humans are doing here on planet Earth. So then here on planet Earth, because we're humans and this is our native planet, there are only 3 categories on planet Earth, and they are people, places, and things. So then it stands to reason it's how we think, feel, and behave in relation to those people and or places and or things that dictate the level of our stress, that dictate the quality of our life. So this is then how I can bring it down and tell you that you are responsible for your stress and you are the solution to your stress. It's how you're thinking, feeling, and behaving, acting or reacting. So how you're thinking, feeling, and behaving in relation to those people and places and things that are in your environment. So moving on from that, then, let's look at the two types of stress that there are. And there are only two. So the first type of stress is a system that we're born with. It's built in us. It's in all of us. It's part of being a human. It's part of being alive. If somebody tells you that they can eliminate your stress, keep your hand on your wallet and run as quickly and fast as you can, because they're trying to take you, because you can't get rid of stress. And this is the kind of stress that you would not want to get rid of. So in technical terms, this is what's called our parasympathetic nervous system. So this is the type of stress that kicks in. Supposing you're out somewhere in, I don't know, maybe in Southeast Asia on some trekking holiday, and you and your friend, we're out some morning, trekking through the woods or down the path through the meadow or something, and you went around the path, and you went around the bend, and you saw one of these pretty little things about 50 yards down the road, down the path. That's when that stress system is going to kick in. So that's when the cortisol starts to come up. That's when the adrenaline starts to flow. Your muscles enlarge. Your brain starts to process quicker. Your heart starts to beat quicker. Not just because you may be afraid, but because these are all the systems that your body will engage you in to allow you to think whether you're going to. There's that thinking. See, whether you're going to fight, flight, or freeze. And I guess for a lot of people, they would probably want to flight, which means they're gonna run. I don't know whether you can outrun one of these cute little cats or not. But if you're out trekking with your friend, the good news is that you don't have to run faster than the tiger. You just have to run faster than your friend. Anyways, if you were in Australia or somewhere where they would have these snakes in the bushes and come out at you, again, that stress system is going to engage you, and you're going to decide whether you're going to fight it, whether you're going to run away, or whether you're going to freeze and try and blend into your environment so you become unnoticed. And if you're out in my neck of the woods over in Canada, and you're out trucking through the woods going and trying to find a lake to go fishing in, and you come across one of these, same thing again. That whole mechanism is going to engage you. That's one type of stress. And I gave it away earlier. I said it's the positive. So this is a positive stress system that we have that is built in that will help to engage us and quite literally perhaps save our lives. Now, there's another type of stress. That's the one that we're really on here to talk about today. And it's that one that that cripples us, that keeps us back. That sometimes ruins our relationships, that saps our strength. It's that kind of unwanted stress that you may be suffering from right now, and it shouldn't be too difficult to figure out that that's what I would call negative stress. So there are the two types of stress: the positive stress that's built into us that will save us, and it comes out when we feel that our life is either perceived to be or really in danger, and then we have the negative stress, which is everything else. Now, what are the triggers to this negative stress? Okay, so there are only 4 triggers to all of our stress. There are only 4. Here's what they are: time, anticipation, situation, and encounter. So all of the stress, all that negative stress, and even some of the positive stress, but let's talk about the negative stress. All the negative stress that you're experiencing from the people, places, and things that you're encountering in your day-to-day life or your day-to-day career, in your environment, can all be, again, listed under one of, some of, or all of these triggers. For example, anticipation, situation. Time is something else. We'll talk about that a little later, maybe in the Q&A we get some time. But I want to talk about anticipation, situation, encounter. Those 3 triggers are close cousins to each other. So, for example, I might be anticipating that I have to stand up and give a presentation in a team meeting next week. I'm a little nervous about that because I don't do well with that kind of thing. So as I'm starting to anticipate this and starting to think about, the reaction, what's going to happen, how's everybody going to feel about this, if I'm going to do well or not, my stress level starts to go up. Now, come next week, when I'm actually in the situation, there I am in the room, and the boss lady, the boss man is now going to start to call on me in a few minutes, and I have to get up and give this presentation. I'm in the situation. And as I'm giving the presentation, I'm checking myself to see, are people ignoring me? Are they going on their phones? Are they get up and leaving? This is all ways to be rejected. Back in the days of Shakespeare, they used to throw fruit and vegetables and rotten stuff at you. But these days, they just go on their phone and they get up and leave, or they start talking to somebody, sitting next to them. So am I going to be rejected in this situation? So again, I start thinking about that, and my stress levels go up. And then encounter, well, maybe I might encounter one of my colleagues, at the water cooler in the car park tomorrow, the next day. And they might decide they want to come over and impart their wisdom to me. And they might say something like, Chess, that presentation you gave wasn't quite up to par, maybe you need to study that more. Maybe you should look for something else to do. Maybe I'll get made fun of, somebody will say it a little louder in front of some of my other colleagues to humiliate me or embarrass me, or maybe I'll get bullied. So this is encounter. So anticipation, situation, encounter, you can see are three close cousins. That's just one of a million different examples I can give you. These are the four triggers to all your stress. Now, let's do a little bit of an exercise. Let's stop here and just take a moment. So when we look at our life, again, as humans on planet Earth, we can divide our life into three categories. Basically, everything in our life comes down to our health, to our money, to our financial situation, and to relationships. Pretty much everything that's going on can, again, be put under one of those headings. So when we think of our health, our money, and our relationships, let's take a look. So let's identify some of these stressors. So take a few minutes to reflect on this and reflect on the sources of stress in your life, and consider these following questions. And you can see them there on the screen. Take a little look at these. Now, if you want to write them down, I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes. This is a little bit of an exercise. Once you've reflected on these questions, identify one stressor, just one stressor you'd like to focus on. And this could be a specific person, place, or thing. You can take a screenshot of this if you want to. You can take your phone up and take a picture of it, I guess, if you want to. Or you can come back to the recording. Remember, Ms. Grisette said that this is being recorded. So you can always come back to this and get this a little later when you want to delve a little farther into it. But I'm going to go quiet for just a minute or two here. Let you make your notes and let you contemplate on this. And I'm not going to call anybody out. It's just something that I thought that I wanted to put in here to allow you to do, to get you focused on some of the things that I've already been talking about. So I'm going to go silent for a couple of minutes and let you do what you need to do with what's on the screen. Okay, so I hope everyone's had an opportunity to reflect on what their answers may be and start to sort of zero in a little bit finer, fine tune some of the thoughts, some of the feelings that you may have been having about your environment and how you would have viewed stress in your life or in your career. We're gonna revisit this in another slide further down the presentation, but let me keep going for the time being. Once I get it there we are. Good. So let's look at some formulas that have to do with stress management, then what stress is and how to understand it. So let's look at the barriers to controlling your stress. There are 4 barriers to controlling your stress. The first one, F, that stands for facts. Now, the facts, so there may be some facts that are contributing to your stress levels, but you can't control the facts because, well, they're the facts. That's what the word means. Look it up in the dictionary. So certain facts may be a barrier to you being able to get control of your stress that you can do nothing about. O stands for other people. Now, contrary to what popular belief is, and I don't have time to go into this today because this is a whole other presentation, but you cannot control other people, and other people can't control you either. So O stands for other people. Now, other people, whatever they're doing, however they're thinking, feeling, or behaving, may be keeping you from being able to control your stress and get a hold of your stress and better manage it. But you can't control other people, so that becomes a barrier. You. Now, again, when we look at human beings, it comes down, again, you can draw a line and divide humans into 2 pieces of the pie, willing and able. So the U stands for unable or unprepared to change. So there are some things that are contributing, some things about you that are contributing. Remember I said that you're responsible for your stress, really not the facts, not other people. You are responsible for your stress, how you think, feel, and behave in relation to people, places, and things. So there may be some things that you are unable to control that are contributing to your stress. But let's drill down again the next level. Is it that you're unable or you're unprepared? Maybe when you've examined it, you actually are unable. But I have found a lot of people say they're unable when merely they are unprepared. And once they understand what they need to do, they go and they get the information, they do what they need to do to be able to become better able then to be able to control and manage their stress. So you have to ask yourself that question. Are you unprepared to change, or are you legitimately unable to get that done? And the fourth and final barrier to change is resistance. So this would be unwilling. This is the part that stands for unwilling. So there may be some things about you that you could change that would help you better able manage your stress, but you're unwilling to do that. You say, well, I'll wear that yoke around my neck. I'll take that weight on board. I'll suffer that because I'm unwilling to do X, Y, and Z, or A, B, and C that will allow my stress level to come down and allow me better able. Well, if that's what you want to do, if that's your decision, then that's about you. So these are the 4 barriers to controlling your stress: facts, other people, your unpreparedness to change, or your inability to change, and your unwillingness. Right. So let's look at another formula. So a lot of people talk about outcomes, and in sports, in organizations, even in our own life, again, going back to health, money, and relationships, which are how we can disseminate who we are here on planet Earth. It's all about the outcomes. It's all about the outcome. We got to win. We got to get it over the line. We got to win, particularly in sports. I get a chance to work with athletes from time to time. Dream come true. But at the lower levels, the children, when they're out playing in the yard and taking their gym class or their PE class, the coaches, long before the soccer moms came along, it was always about win. Well, here's the thing. It's not about the outcome. when you raise up to the next level, now we're going this way. When we raise up to the next level, it's not about outcomes. The concentration seems to be on performance. Well, it's not about performance either. Yes, I know that your performance will dictate your outcome. Your performance impacts your outcome, but there's something that has to be looked at before your performance, and that's process. Let me give you a brief story, if I may. Usain Bolt, we all know who he is. So back in the day when he was competitive and winning all those gold medals, his process was something like this. So he would go to bed every night somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock. 9:30, quarter to 10, he's in bed. 10 o'clock, lights out. He's asleep by 10, quarter after 10. He gets up every morning at 5 o'clock, goes down and gets his little protein shake and all those little thing and health and thing, whatever he used to eat and stuff that would drive people crazy. The car would come and pick him up. Now he gets the car. Everybody else has to find their own way down to the practice facility, but because he's Usain Bolt, he gets the car. So the car will come and pick him up around 7 o'clock, and he gets down there about 7:30, quarter to 8. He goes in. They do some stretching. He gets a little bit of a workout, a little bit of a massage, a little bit of rub down. Then he goes into the weight room and he starts to do all the weightlifting and all the legs and all the thing and all the rest of it to form his and tone his body to make him the athlete that he was and probably still is to a large extent. Then around 10 o'clock, he'd take a break. He gets his little mid-morning snack again, his little bits and things, a little bit of carbs in there now to replace what he used up when he was doing the weightlifting. Then the track coach comes in and gets him. He goes up the track and they start, working with the mechanics and all the rest of it, one thing and another. And then around 12:30, he goes and has his lunch. They do a light workout, just a light workout after lunch. He has a bit of another rub down. And by 2:30, 3 o'clock, he's gone. Car comes and gets him and he's home. That's his process. And that process, so he found a formula that worked for him. And he just repeated that, rinse and repeat, as they say now. He repeated that. That's why he has all the. Can you imagine if he phoned them up? Hey, listen, man, don't bother coming for me so early in the morning. I'm going out with my fiance, and we're going to go out to a party, and like send the car around 9:30, 10. I'm getting up late. Or supposing he called him and he said, listen, organize the car to bring me home at lunchtime. I'm not going to stay after 12 o'clock. My fiance, we want to go shopping. I'm going to take her out and, buy her some clothes and buy her some shoes and different things. We're going to go shopping. Can you imagine if he started having those conversations? Don't you think that would impact his process? Of course it is, because he's now starting to play with his process, which is then going to impact his performance, which is going to dictate his outcome. So really, if we want to have the outcome that we want to have, then it's not about the performance, it's about the process. So I would invite you then to think about what is your process when you're thinking about how you're getting through things, whether you're satisfied or not with your performance and therefore then your outcome. If you're not satisfied, then it's in your process. How can you change your process then that will provide you a better performance that will then dictate to you a better outcome? Good. Now, 4 high frequency categories. So I find over the years that I've been doing this, as Ms. Grisette had pointed out, and for a couple of decades, almost probably 30 years now, in various parts of the world where I've worked and or lived and worked, I find that when people come to me and talk to me about stress seems to reside in 5 high frequency categories. 1, I can do nothing about, because again, that's the money. And I'm not an independent financial advisor. I'm not an accountant. I know nothing about it. Where I grew up on the east coast of Canada in Nova Scotia, 1 and 1 is 11. And that's all I know about math and accounting. But those other 4 high frequency categories I deal with every day for several decades. These are the 4 high frequency categories where people's stress seems to reside. Whenever they tell me something and we bring it down, it seems to be one of, some of, or all of these 4 high frequency categories. Their stress comes from communication, motivation, relationships, and planning. For example, somebody might come and say, well, my staff, they don't get me. So there's stress in the organization. Well, everybody can talk, but not everybody can listen. So that's then when I have to teach them how to become a better listener. When they become a better listener, they take that new way of listening back into the organization, they start to hear what their staff is saying, start to maybe implement that, even if just the people start thinking that they're now being heard, guess what? Stress levels come down in the organization, right? Motivation, same way. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Relationships, don't even get me started on that. The best-selling book I wrote was about that. We'll be here all day talking about relationships. But what I find about relationships, again, we bring it all down to the lowest common denominator. It usually seems to be about confidence. And it's not about the confidence that they have in the relationships they have with other people. It always comes back to the confidence they have in themselves in relation to the relationships they have with other people. So I teach people how to be more confident with themselves. And in planning, that's a whole nother system, time and task management, problem solving techniques, goal setting and implementation. It's a raft of things that come under planning. These are the 4 high frequencies categories where stress resides, and I'm guessing that you're going to be able to identify one of, some of, or all of these high frequency categories where you can now recognize that this is where your stress is residing. So let's look at this again. Let's just take a moment and reframe this, right? Consider the stressor you identified in the previous exercise. Try to reframe that stressor in a more positive way by asking yourself the following questions. What are some potential benefits or opportunities that could arise from this situation? You know, they say in every dark cloud is a silver lining. Yeah, well, I'm not so sure, but most of the time there is. Sometimes we have to look for it. How could I view this situation as a challenge to overcome rather than a threat? And what positive aspects can I find in this situation, even if they're small, at least to start there? So write down your reframed perspective on that stressor. Again, I'm just going to go quiet for a couple of minutes, maybe for about a minute, and you can take a screenshot. You can take a picture with your phone, or you can come back to the recording at a future time and get this information and really drill down on it. Take a moment and just consider this in terms of the stress that you identified earlier. Do you understand how you can, again, how it's you, it's your perception. It's how you think, feel, and behave in relation to those people, places, and things that dictate the quality of your life, that dictate the level of your stress. So, moving on, let's talk about some solutions, because that's what we're really here for now. Now, what does Swiss cheese have to do with stress management? Well, let me tell you what Swiss cheese has to do with stress management. Quite a lot, actually. Back when I was practicing, I was still here when I arrived in the UK in 2011. I had a lady come to me. I knew her husband in the community that I was living at the time, and he asked if I would see his wife. She was in her early 40s. Between the two of them, they had 6 children, and they were all steps, like they were about 2 years or so, 2.5, maybe 1.5, 2 years apart. So the oldest, the boy, he was about 15, 16, I think at the time. And he was now getting ready to leave school. And all the way down to the little girl who was now about 6 years old, and she was getting ready to start school. She was in her first year at school. She was a stay-at-home mom. The father, I guess he provided for the family. And she told me that when they all get back from school in the afternoon, that's when it kicks off around 3:45. And, you know, they're all just running around, and this, not that they're misbehaved kids, but they're just being children, right? Good. So, you know, the 2 boys are fighting over the controller for the game thing, and then the girl is about 11 or 12, I think she said. She's on the phone, she's on a laptop, she's got the radio going, she's got TV on, you know, she's talking to her friends, blah, blah, all this noise going. The little girl's, mommy, holding, you know, dragging on her dress, mommy, you know, feed me. I'm hungry. And this is all this going on. So stress levels going up. She told me, she said, look, I love my kids, but, you know, I'm just wondering, it's going to be either them or me. I can't take this much longer. I said, well, you didn't need to tell me that. Here's what I want you to do. So this is what I told her. I said, go home and go online. I said, you know how to get online, how to do Google and all that, right? She was in her 40s, and she didn't have a career. She was a stay-at-home mom. No disrespect, but I just need to make sure. So I asked her, you know, get on. Yeah. She's like, concerned. I said, well, put in Swiss cheese. You're going to find, like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of pictures of Swiss cheese. Find one that resonates with you. Print it off and put it up on your fridge. And she said, why would I want to do that? I said, well, when it all kicks off, you're telling me that everything's sort of, oh, you've got an open plan downstairs in your home there. Everything kicks off. They're all in the living room, the dining room, the kitchen. They're all around the place that way. When you're looking at, when everything's kicking off and the stress level's going up in the afternoon, I want you to be reminded by looking at that piece of Swiss cheese. What I want you to do is I just want you to close your eyes and just take a breath and just imagine yourself turning into a giant piece of Swiss cheese. She said, well, why would I want to do that? She said, well, Swiss cheese has holes in it. So I said, what you want to do is just imagine yourself, just, you don't have to take on all the stress. Just because you don't take it on doesn't mean you love them any less. It means you love yourself more, and you'll be able to handle them better, and you'll be able to give them more of what they require. So just imagine that you're this giant piece of Swiss cheese, you got all these holes in you, and just let the stress go through you. Just let it go through you and out the other side and off into the air someplace and let it dissipate. So long story short, she did that and it worked. And I got a call back, and she came back. She was other things that we were dealing with. And a couple of weeks after week, she reported to me that things were, and even now the children were starting. The kid was going, hey, no, you can't hit me anymore. No, to the brother, you can't hit me. Swiss cheese. And, and this is what's happening. And it changed the whole dynamic of the whole family, according to the father, who connected with me about 3 or 4 months later. So you can imagine yourself being a piece of Swiss cheese and let the stress go through you. You don't have to hold it. It doesn't mean that you don't like what you're doing or like the people around you, or that you see it as any less important. It actually means that you're looking after yourself and better able to look after them as well. Here's a beach. Now, let's talk about motivation, because that's one of those 4 high categories. So I'm on this beach and I've got to run. I told my friends, I told my mates, we organized, we're going to meet down this end of the beach in the afternoon. And I'm down there at the end of the beach, and the wind's coming, the breeze coming off the water, and the tide's coming in, and they're not there. And I see them way down the other end of the beach. And I say, oh, well, I guess either they or I must have got confused. We ended up at the wrong end of the beach. So now I want to get up to the other end of the beach. Why I want to do that? I don't know. I guess I see my friends up there. Maybe there's a cold drink stand up. There's some reason I'm motivated to go up the other side of that beach, run up the other side of that beach, so I can be with my friends. Now, if I were to do that the way that I've been brought up to think about myself and my life and my environment and how I think, feel, and behave in relation to people, places, and things, this is what I would be doing, because this is how I was brought up. I'm going to be down that end of the beach. I'm going to say, well, here I am down here. I'm cold. I'm lonely. I'm by myself. I'm not happy. I need to get up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to, I'm going to maybe start to, because it's a long beach, I'm going to start to jog. I'm going to start to, maybe jog along the beach a little bit. Now, overnight, as it is on the beach, the tide came in and went out, and it left some driftwood. So I'm going along and I'm thinking, okay, look, I'm getting farther away. Yeah. I'm not lonely anymore. It's not cold anymore. I can hear people singing, and there's music, and somebody's having a barbecue. There's I'm doing all right. And once in a while I look up, but most of the time I'm measuring myself by how far away I'm getting from that negative that I didn't want, on my way to getting the positive that I do want. And of course, I trip over the driftwood because I didn't see it, because it was an obstacle, it was a barrier to my getting down the beach, and I didn't see it because I was too busy looking behind instead of concentrating on the negative I don't want, and where I'm coming from instead of where I'm going. Anyways, I pick myself up and I carry on. Earlier in the day, the mothers and the children were there, and they were digging and things and stuff. They've gone home now with the plastic pails and the buckets and things and stuff, and then shovels and all that. And the water's coming and washed it all away. But there's still a wet hole in this. There's still a hole in the wet sand. And because I'm looking at, look, I'm getting farther away, from what I don't want. Oh, this is great. I'm doing good. I step in the hole, and of course I fall over and crick up my ankle. I'm not doing very well, am I? Now, in this particular case, if I was literally, if I was to focus on the positive I do want, where I'm going, wouldn't I better be able to see and plan how to overcome or deal with those obstacles, those barriers that inevitably present themselves? I think that's called life. Look, driftwood. I could jump over it. I could go around it. Guess I could just stop and move it out of the way. Look, hole. I'll jump over the hole, or I'll run around the hole. And eventually I'll get down to where I'm going. So what we find happens, so to put this in another perspective, I talk to a lot of people in different parts of the world over my career, and most people that I talk to, you know, we can have a conversation where they start to talk about, well, you know, how they want to be wealthy, how they want to be rich. Now, you can be wealthy in a lot of ways. You can be rich in a lot of ways that have nothing to do with currency. But let's talk about currency, because that's what they're talking about. They want to be independently wealthy. They want to have money in the bank. They want to have some assets. Some people have told me, you know, 100 grand, I'm good. A couple of people told me million, that's what I'm aiming for. I had a lady in London some years ago. She told me 10 million. That's my goal. Don't give me 9.5. You might as well give me £1. If I don't get 10, I'm not happy. 9.5 isn't going to do me. I might as well have nothing. I thought, well, if you get to 9.5 and you're not happy, you could always give it to me. But in any event, I didn't tell her that. But this is what people are thinking, right? Good. So here's the thing. This is what I found out when I go out and study them. Everybody says, oh, I want to be wealthy. I want to be financially wealthy. But when I study them, what are they doing? They're out every day working really hard, trying not to be poor. And those two things are not the same thing, only said differently. They're two completely different mindsets. So if I'm going to run down that beach the way that I was taught to think about, oh, I want to get out. Yeah, I say I want to be rich, but the thing is, I don't want to be poor because that's the same thing as being rich. No, it's not. It's a completely different mindset. And that's why I'm tripping over the driftwood and I'm falling in the hole, because I'm trying to run away from the negative I don't want, which is being poor in this particular case, instead of or getting down to see my mates and when I'm literally on the beach, right? If I spend my time concentrating on trying to get away from the negative I don't want, I'm not going to get to the positive I do want, because I'm going to get beaten, battered, and bruised, and I'm going to give up. And we know from studying human behavior that as we start to, so I'm getting farther away. There's some people over here, you know, say, hey man, come on over. And, you know, they got a barbecue, they got the boombox going, they got some music, they got some planting on it. It's all good. And hey, listen, I can make some new friends. All of a sudden, at least I'm not alone anymore. I get to make some new friends and have a drink, have something to eat, and be happy. So all of a sudden, my motivation to keep going goes down. See, because now I'm focused on getting away from the negative I don't want. These people are providing me something that I didn't have, which was not to be alone and cold and lonely down there at the other end of the beach. So my motivation to keep going tanks. If I'm concentrating on what I'm doing, I'm going to say, hey, that's okay, great, thanks. But my goal is to get down there with my mates. Maybe next time. My motivation continues to go along until I get to my goal. Does this make sense? I hope so. So again, examine yourself. I know you're saying about all the positive things, all the goals that you have, all the things that you want to accomplish in your life and in your career, in your relationships, in your health. Remember the health, money, relationships. I get all that. But again, what's your process? Are you spending more time concentrating on getting away from the negative you don't want? Or are you fully concentrated on moving toward the positive that you do want? That would be a question that you would have to answer for yourself. Now, let me try and explain to you how you can get more and better sleep. And when there are lots of reasons why people want to get more and better sleep, but again, from a point of view of people who have elevated levels of stress, chronic stress levels, or maybe even just acute, you know, just go episodic, just goes up for a while, and then it goes back down again, and then they're all fine. But when you're in a zone, when you're in a position where your stress, the stress that you're feeling, the anxiety that you're suffering from, is keeping you from getting good sleep, I'm going to give the solution to that now. Now, first of all, people who have what we call sleep issues fall into one of three categories. Category one, you go to bed at night, you know, you lay down, you turn the light off, you got your eyes closed. Hope you get your eyes closed, because it helps when you want to go to sleep, you close your eyes. Right? You got your sheet pulled up, you got the fan on, right, or the windows open. And and you lay there and you can't get to sleep. You start thinking about all your stuff, and then your mind. I call it mind travel. You're thinking about your career. You're thinking about your relationship. You're thinking about your car. Thinking about your mortgage. You're thinking about the bin man. You're thinking about whatever it is. You're thinking about how you're going to get the grass cut in the weekend. Like whatever it is you're thinking about, and you start having these thoughts. Eventually, you fall off to sleep, and you sleep through the night. When the alarm goes off, you get up in the morning and off you go. Great. Category 2. People, they don't have any problem getting off to sleep at night, but they wake up in the middle of the night and they start thinking about, all the boss and the report and their car and the mortgage and the relationship and this and that and the children and the thing and the one thing and the grocery list and all the rest of it, whatever it all happens to be. And you can be there laying there in the middle of the night, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I've had clients that have come in and told me an hour and a half. Can you believe that? 19 minutes, they're laying there, just mind traveling. They finally end up back to sleep, but not because they went back to sleep, it's because they just passed out from exhaustion. And a couple hours later, the alarm goes off, they wake up. Now they've already lost an hour, half an hour, an hour and a half, sometimes more, they tell me, of sleep. So no wonder you wake up in the morning, 6 o'clock, 5, 6 o'clock, when it's time to get up and get the day started, and you're already tired because you haven't gotten enough sleep. And make no wonder that you're starting off on a back foot. And this happens, day after day, or maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And then there's category 3. Category 3 people are people who are category 1 and 2 combined. Some people, they have a problem getting off to sleep. When they do, but they still wake up in the middle of the night and go through the mind travel. From exhaustion, they end up back to sleep, and they wake up in the morning and carry on with whatever they've got for their day. I'm going to explain to you now two techniques that I guarantee you will work, and why I know they will work. The short version is it's one of those sweet times on planet Earth where our conscious mind, our subconscious mind, and our brain all come to work together quite sweetly, quite nice. And this is how it works. Now, both of these will work. I can never tell by looking at somebody which one will work better. But for some of you, technique 1, technique A will work better. And for some of you, technique B, technique 2 will work better. I don't know. I can't try them both. You'll soon figure out which one works better. And that's the one that obviously you're going to gravitate toward. So technique number 1. See, again, you're laying in your bed, you're trying to get to sleep, or you wake up in the middle of the night trying to sleep, and you're trying to get back to sleep. Okay, so what I want you to do, you're laying there. What I want you to do is I want you to feel your toes. Now, I don't mean reach down underneath the sheet and tickle your feet with your fingers. I mean just become aware of your feet. Become aware of your toes. Just zero in on your body. Become aware of your toes, and relax your toes. However you do that. Some people go, this way and then go that way. Some people go into the middle, and so there's different. Doesn't matter. Whatever the common, however you want to relax your toes, you go ahead and just relax your toes. Then after you relax your toes, relax the balls of your feet. The balls of your feet would be right here. Then relax your arch. Then relax your heel. Now, a lot of people who might be laying on their back when they go to sleep, and then feet usually go this way. Some go this way, but usually they go that way. When you're thinking about relaxing your heel, you're going to get that sense that your heel might be getting a little bit, all that dead skin that makes up that big fat part of your heel. You're going to get that sensation. Well, my foot's relaxed, my heel's relaxed. Maybe your foot is going to kind of maybe go down and make that little indentation in the mattress as it relaxes. Perfectly fine. Very good. Then you go to your shin, then you go to your calf. Then you go to the front of your thigh, then you go to the back of your thigh. Now, there's a couple of caveats here. First of all, when you're doing this, and for example, when you're at the calf, same thing, right? When we think about relaxing, when we're stressed and our body is tight, our calf is constricted. When we think about, I'm going to relax my calf is now relaxing, you're thinking about your calf, you're coming into this awareness of your calf. It kind of gets a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit fatter, a little bit heavier. And again, it might kind of make your leg kind of drift down, make that little extra indentation in the mattress. Perfectly fine. Very good. Here's a couple of caveats. One, you're going to get started and you're going to go along, and you're going to think, all of a sudden you're going to realize, oh yeah, I was doing that thing that guy Chess told me about, but now drifted off, started thinking about all my stuff again. Oh man, let me get back to this thing that guy was telling me about. Okay, great, no problem, no shame, no blame. Don't beat yourself up if you do use a feather. It doesn't hurt as much. But when you come back to where if you can remember the last body part you were, then just carry on. If you can't, you have to go back and start at your toes. And then you'll be going along and you realize, oh, hang on a minute, I've been thinking about all that stuff again. Let me go back and do this thing. Great, no problem. If you can't remember where you were, go back and start at your toes. A couple of times you'll do this and you'll be asleep. And I will guarantee you, if you're doing this right, you will never, ever, ever, ever get past your hips before you're asleep. Technique number 2. Completely different. That was somnamblistic. Let's go cognitive now. Let's do the mental. So again, you're laying there in your bed, whether you're category 1 or category 2, whichever one you are, and you're trying to get to sleep. On your in-breath, on your next in-breath, say 100. On your out-breath, I know it sounds corny, but just work with me here because I've been telling this for over 20 years and it works everywhere I go. And nobody's ever called me and said, it don't work, because it does work. If you're alive and you're a human on the planet today and you're functioning, it has to work because you have a conscious mind, subconscious mind, and brain. It will work. On the out breath, say the word, say the word sleep. That's all. On the next in breath, 99, sleep. 98, sleep. You're going to recognize, again, a couple of caveats. First thing you'll recognize is that when we breathe in, our resting breathing rate, when we're just there, what we call a resting breathing rate, just laying on the mattress and we're still, when we breathe in, we breathe out very quickly because it takes a lot of energy to hold that breath in, so our body will push it out again. Sometimes it can take a while before we breathe in again, but again, that's perfectly okay because your heart and everything is beating at the speed it needs to be at everybody's different resting breathing rate, so no problem. The next thing is that it's important. If you want this technique to work, please remember the number is always on the in-breath. The word sleep is always on the out-breath. If you get them wrong, then it won't work. And I don't have time today to explain why that is, but believe me, if you get them confused, it won't work. The number is always on the in-breath. The word sleep is always on the out-breath. And again, caveat, and all of a sudden you think, oh yeah, hang on a second, I just been gone off thinking about all my stuff. Okay, let me get back to this thing Chess was telling me about. If you can remember the last number, take the next one down, not a problem. But if you can't, you got to go back and start at 100. And then again, you might think about your stuff. You do this once or twice, 2 or 3 times, and you'll end up asleep. What you're going to find when you find the one which one of these techniques works for you better, because they'll both work for you, but one will always work a little bit better than the other. When you do this over a period of time, you're going to find a couple of things are going to happen. You're going to find that the amount of time that you go out there, like my guy with the hour and a half, right? He got it down to, 15, 20 minutes. He got it down to 10 minutes over a longer period of time. But the time you go out there and spend out there mind traveling will start to come down. And the number of times you go out there will start to decrease as well. So instead of going out there all 3 or 4 times before you finally get to sleep, maybe you only go out there once and you go to sleep after you've done your technique. Okay? So these are 2 techniques. I guarantee you, once you're a human and you're functioning alive on the planet today, they will work for you to give you more and better sleep. But just please remember everything that I've spoken about here today. The difference between who you are and who you want to be is what you do. So it's about implementation. I've given you a lot of information. If you don't implement it, then all we've really had is an intellectual chit chat, and thank you for that. But I really want to believe that you're going to go out and take on board some of the, if not all of some of these things that I've explained to you today, and be able to start to find out how you can start to change your process, start to become aware of who you are as a human, that you think, feel, and behave in relation to people, places, and things, and that's really all there is, right? It's what you do with all this that will make the difference for you. So, stress. I think we can all relate to this. It's like a spice, in the right proportion, it enhances the flavor of the food. Too little produces a bland, dull meal, and too much may choke you. So, having said that, then, I think the goals of the presentation, as I indicated earlier, what stress is. I think I've told you more than enough about what stress is. We talked about the 2 types of stress. and I've given you enough formulas, enough solutions, enough systems that you'll be able to implement you'll be able to that you can need to control your stress. So I would now send it back to the moderator, Ms. Grisette. You can come in and see if there's any questions. Anybody has any comments, any questions? Fire away. Let's see if we can help. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moulton, for your presentation. And we are now at the question and answer segment of our presentation this morning. Tanya, have you seen any questions in the chat?
Hi, not as yet. Carrie Allen said most people are poor because it is a reflection of their attitude or mindset. And Lorraine Allen also contributed, saying so having a negative or positive outlook is important, does make sense. So if there are any questions, you can type it in the chat. We could give them a few moments to see if they have any questions that they would like Mr. Moulton to answer.
Come on, there's got to be a couple of
Yeah, we're giving them a little time. They're thinking it was a lot of information, and I think that everyone did well. I know everyone did enjoy the knowledge, the information that you would have shared. Lauren Allen is here in the chat saying, so in summary, your outlook to the problem is critical to managing the stress. I am not sure if it is a question or a statement.
It sounds like a statement.
Okay.
She's absolutely right.
Oh, she said kind of
both.
Marquita Seeley is saying, I was particularly interested in dealing with stress as it relates to the sudden death of a family member, friend, etc. And Karen Hopelace is asking, how can I deal with a toxic supervisor? I cannot play that cheese ritual.
Right.
I believe is the question.
Right. So how you're going to deal with your colleagues, particularly if they're your upline, you're going to, again, it's how. I can answer that question. I have a very good example. Back in the middle of the 1980s, because it was child labor for me. Back in the middle of the 1980s, when I still lived in Canada. I worked for 3 multinational corporations, and depending on which one you want to talk about, there was this one particular one where I was assigned to go deal with this lady every Monday afternoon, Susie. And she was one of our suppliers. So, she wasn't a customer, she was a supplier. Her company was a large supplier to us, and then we repackaged and, sent out. That's how we made our money, by buying from her. Well, let me tell you, if she was only a piece of work, she'd have been all right. That's how she was. I mean, I remember driving back from her office every Monday afternoon. A couple of times I'm driving thinking, there's a big tree. Maybe if I go over there, maybe, maybe I won't have to go back. Well, look, there's a big 18-wheeler coming down. Maybe if I go over there, right, and let him hit me. I was thinking about how I can get out of this, because every Monday she was like, rah, 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 rah. She was like, in her stress level, and, she was giving that out to me. And I was getting like, I got to go back and deal with this, Susie every Monday afternoon. Oh God, this is a terrible way to make a living. Like, I just go stand on a street corner and sell pencils or something would be better than this. Oh my God, it was terrible. So when I started to learn about this, I realized I can't change Susie. She's the way. And I went and I asked, and they said, yeah. Well, the guy who was here before you that we put to her, he used to come back and he was like, the same way. It's Susie, it's not you. And I said, well, I figured so, but I just wanted to check. And how much you pay me to go deal with this woman every Monday afternoon, by the way? Anyways, so I realized that I can't change her. What I had to do was I had to zero in on how I think, feel, and or behave in relation to people, this lady named Susie. So I couldn't change her. What I did is I learned about a bit more about myself and how I'm made up, like how I got to think, feel, and behave. Oh, this was like new information. So I changed my experience with her. So then I wasn't looking for a tree to drive into on the way back to the office every Monday afternoon, you see. So we can't remember what you brought up. The O, other people, that's a barrier to stress management. Your toxic supervisor. We can't change them, particularly if they don't want to be changed or it's not safe to approach them. So what we have to do is we have to change ourselves. We have to change our process. Remember the process, right? Because then that changed my performance. My performance wasn't driving down the road looking for a tree to smash into, so I wouldn't have to go back there next Monday afternoon. So I had to change my own experience, how I thought, felt, and how I reacted to Susie on Monday afternoons, trying to wind me up, and doing a pretty good job of it, and driving me mental.
Thank you so much. There's another question in the chat from Mrs. Fair Marie Brown, our director. She's saying, I often struggle with saying no and therefore end up taking on more than I can reasonably handle. How can I navigate this?
Okay, so thank you, Ms. Brown, and good afternoon to you, ma'am, and thank you for coming in to the presentation. I'm grateful for your presence here this afternoon. So that's what the book is about. So again, when we take humans and we come down, we drill down to the next level down. There are people who are caretakers. There are people who are people pleasers, people who are workaholics, people who are martyrs, and people who can't commit to relationships. Let's talk about people who are caretakers and people pleasers. Let's talk about people pleasers first. So there are two types. The way if somebody were to brand themselves as they would brand themselves, certainly not me. They would brand themselves as a people pleaser, perhaps. There are two types of people pleasers. One, listen, whatever you want, I'll do. Just name it. Like whatever you want, I'll yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like because my worst fear would be that you don't like me, or that you don't respect me, that you don't want me. So whatever you want me to do, I'll just do. Even if it kills me, I'm going to do it. Then the other type of people pleaser is somebody who's more of a fixer. Let me give you an example of that, if I may. So a young lady, she stands in front of her mirror every morning, and she can't, before she's going to the office, and she can't figure out what to wear. Well, should I wear that top with that dress, or maybe that pants with that other thing, or maybe the shoes, how do I do the bracelet in my hair, and she's there and it just, the stress levels go up. She's driving herself crazy. She can't even figure out where to work every morning. Then you've got the fellow over here, the hero, the guy, right? He's one of these people that maybe there are lots of reasons, but one of the more predominant reasons somebody would turn into a fixer is because, hey, listen, they either told me I was stupid, or they just didn't tell me anything. They didn't tell me I was stupid. They didn't tell me I was smart either. So I don't even know if I'm acceptable or not in society. So you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to start to fix people. Now, that actually sounds like me, but that's not me. I have a different agenda. I'm not doing this because I want a pat on the back. I have a mortgage to pay. Right, good. So let's just establish that for a moment. But however, somebody who wants to go out and fix people, then that's the people. So our guy and our girl meet, and the guy says, hey, I can sort you out. I can fix you up. I can tell you what to wear, and I can tell you where to live, and what car to drive, and who your friends should be. And and she's thinking, oh wow, this guy's so strong and so masculine, and he's so powerful. Oh wow, I thought I was a little ditz. Well, I can't be so stupid after all, because he wouldn't waste his time on me. Maybe I'm okay. So she gets her esteem from him. Now it's a codependent toxic relationship, because he's getting his esteem from her, because he's, Georgie, you're so brilliant, you're so good, and getting this pat on the back. So they get their esteem built up from each other, rather than knowing, because they don't know how to do it themselves, because they weren't taught how to get that done. Now, I have no idea if any of this relates to you, ma'am. I'm here not to put you on the spot and tell you anything about yourself. But when you bring up that subject, the first thing that comes up to into my mind is people who identify as people pleasers and people who identify as caretakers. Caretakers are people who will, again, look after somebody for all kinds of different reasons, usually because they're looking for that. I'm not suggesting that might be you. There might be 10 other, there might be, I can put my finger quite quickly on about 6, 7 other different ways to explain the answer to that question. I'd be happy to do that with you in a more private setting where I have more time to explain. But I hope that helps to give you some information and some pathway into where you might want to be able to guide your attention to examining whatever it is that needs to be examined that might be able to make you a better human on this planet.
Thank you. We have another question from Andrea Greenwich Nichols. She's saying, I was also going to ask how you can deal with stress at work, but remember the presenter said that we're responsible for our own stress. Sometimes at work, it is not only us. Do you have any exercises for us to deal with stress at work?
Mostly information, but let me tell you this then. So again, when we bring it down to down the funnel to its lowest, so I go to so there are only 2 ways that you can wind me up, as they like to say here in the UK. This phrase, wind you up. I love it. So you can wind me up on purpose, or you can wind me up by accident. So for example, I say, Mr. Gurzette might say, oh, we're inviting Chess over, her and her partner say, oh, we're inviting Chess over. Yeah, let's wind him up because, actually, getting Chess wound up, that's better than watching television. We'll get them all wound up and let them go crazy. That's a whole, like a whole movie. Good. Okay. That you're not my friend if that's what you're doing. You invite me to your home, you invite me out somewhere, and then you're going to purposely wind me up. That means you're malicious. However, there's another way I could get wound up. Or maybe I'm getting ready on Monday and I've had a couple of days off the weekend. I'm thinking, oh yeah, I gotta go down there and deal with that. Tanya St. Hill. Oh yeah, and she's got a piece of work she is. Oh my God, and like she's just like, there's nothing wrong with her. She's just being who she is. But who she is and who I am don't match. So there's always going to be a bit of a conflict. There's always going to be a bit of abrasive. There's always going to be some aggro. But I become wound up because my personality and her personality don't match. She's not trying to wind me up. I just become wound up. So again, what I have to do is I have to examine myself and maybe get some help and get some further information then, and get some techniques that will allow me to be able to start to change how I take on what's coming out from that person. Does that make sense? Again, it's about me. It's not about them. I'm sorry to say that, but it is. See, we became the way we are pretty much on automatic. Yeah, I grew up in a family with an older brother and sister. I was the youngest person. My parents, they loved me to death. They gave me what they could give me, but I didn't get everything that I required. And it's not that they were holding back. My father and my mother loved me 100%, but they didn't have everything that was required. You know what they gave to me? What their parents gave to them. And their parents gave to them what their parents had given to them, and we could go back generations. But I didn't get everything I wanted, everything I needed. So now I grow up with a whole HOLE, an emotional stunt. I'm stunted emotionally. What I need to do is, so the only bad news I have for you is this. The only bad news I'll ever have for you is that if you want to make that change, you have to put effort into it, because we grew up pretty much an automatic. We just took on what was given to us. Yeah, when we grow up and we get out into the neighborhood, we get out in the community, we get out in society, there's 2 other things that can happen. I meet somebody, I meet Miss Gurzette, and I say, when we're hanging out at school together and she's one of my friends in my group, I might say, oh yeah, she's got some cool stuff. I'm going to take some of that and I'm going to bolt that onto what I already have. Or I'm going to say, hey, she's got some cool stuff. You know what I'm going to do? She has a better way of doing that than the way I was taught to do it. So you know what? I'm going to replace it. or I just keep doing the same thing I'm always doing. So again, it just takes effort, and it doesn't have to be so much effort if we have the knowledge. And I hope that I've been able to impart some of that here this afternoon and this morning to you. I hope that makes sense.
You definitely did. Thank you. Faye Marie Brown said thank you for your comments. There was Marquita Seeley continuing on her question as it relates to the sudden death, and she wants you to address the stress related to it. And it could include workmates as well. So can you address the stress related to sudden death? And it can be included with workmates as well.
Yeah. When we look at the surveys, and there are many done, I mean, there's so many, and I think they stopped taking them now because it's just the same thing. You know, the death of someone who you know is one of the top 3 providers of stress to individuals. The only thing that I could advise you would be to seek out some bereavement counseling. I'm not qualified for that. I'm not certified for it. I really don't know anything about it. And I'm sorry I don't, but it's not where my career path has taken me. You would have to look for somebody in Barbados. If I may, I do know Dr. Marcus Lashley. If this is a question pertaining to some real example, I'm not trying to promote Marcus, but I do know that he does deal with a lot of bereavement cases. He's a friend and a colleague of mine, and he's revealed to me that he does deal with that. So if it's a question pertaining to something that's real and ongoing in your life, you might want to seek out Dr. Lashley. But I'm not in a position to be able to help you, ma'am. I'm sorry. I know nothing about it.
Okay, that's no problem. Thank you. Claudette Gibbs is asking, in an environment where you are the new department, and learning, where you're in a new department and learning new duties and deadlines are near, how best can this type of stress be dealt with?
Well, again, we're going back to the 4 triggers: situation, well, time, but situation, anticipation, situation, and encounter. I said I'd talk about time if we had a moment, if we had some time, and this may actually be the right question. So everybody knows about time management, but do you know what task management is? So let me very briefly give you the difference. So time management is, look, I've got a report here that I've got to work on today, and I'm going to spend. I can only spend about 20 minutes on this. And when I'm finished, I've got to write up this essay. I've got to write this essay. I'm going to spend about 45 minutes on that, and then I've got a meeting. After that meeting, I'm going to work on this here. I'm going to work on this, and that's going to take me. I'll work on that probably for about an hour, hour and a half, and then be the end of my day. That's time management, where you're allocating a predetermined amount of time to work on something, wherever you get it to, and that amount of time is what it is. Yeah, if I say 20 minutes, after 20 minutes, I got to put it down and go to something else. Task management is, well, I'm going to work on this report, and I need to get it to the 3rd chapter, and I'm only halfway through the 1st chapter. I need to get 3 chapters in this report written. If it takes me 20 minutes, if it takes me 20 hours, if it takes me 20 days, God, I hope not, because I got a lot to do. But this is task management. So then when I get to that certain predetermined point, however much time it takes me, that's task management. I find that a lot of people work in a time management system who are task management oriented. I for one, found out years ago, decades ago, that I'm task management oriented. So I'm the type of person, I'm going to do this until I get to a predetermined point. If it takes me all day, if it takes me all week, I hope not, because I got a lot to do. So I mean, I'm going to temper that with reality. I can't take a whole week just to work on one project. But that's task management. So when you find out whether you're task management in a time management system, or whether you can work task management and be allowed to work as a task management person, you're probably going to find that you're going to be accomplishing more with a lot less effort and a lot less elevated levels of stress. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, Joanne Blackman Jarvis. She's just saying there are persons who thrive on creating chaos and stress in any environment. The key is to is to know how not to be drawn into their circles for your own peace of mind. There are also some who transfer their stress to others, and that is very dangerous all around. Other persons in the chat, they're thanking you for your response.
Okay.
Hayden Clark is asking, is there any book or reference material that would further assist on the process, performance, and outcome stages?
The first person there that talked about taking on the stress, and people are giving out their stress to somebody.
Mhm.
The immediate word that comes up in my mind is boundaries. Learn, again, it's not something that comes to us automatically. We weren't born, oh, I know how to establish boundaries. That doesn't come automatically. We have to seek out information and learn about this, but it's how to establish boundaries. So if I put boundaries up rather than walls, but if I establish boundaries and I learn how to be confident in myself to be able to maintain those boundaries without necessarily ticking you off, because it's about me, not about you. None of this is about you. You're just being yourself. You're either being malicious or we just don't get on. So I'm going to establish boundaries. I have a boundary here for my, well, I have no boundary for my wife. My wife, there's no boundary. Then I have boundaries here for my, for my close friends. They can get this close to me. Then I have other friends, and then I have acquaintances, and I have people that I know, and I have colleagues, and I have the rest of the world. So there are different boundaries, right? For different people. Yeah. Learn how to establish boundaries. That person, if they're trying to wind you up, if they're trying to give you their stress, are they doing it on purpose or out of ignorance? And you would know the answer to that. Then you would set up a boundary that would deal with that as best you can. And maybe one of them is just to stay away. Or sometimes if you feel that people are open and you're not going to go and blame and shame, instead of talking about, well, you know, you do this and you do that and you do the other thing, and you talk about yourself. Listen, you know something? When you're putting that stuff out, I feel, I react, I make it about me, make it about yourself. I'm going to make it about me, not about you, because as soon as I start pointing my finger at you, I had a coach years ago that told me this one. I'll tell you this one right now. When I point my finger at you, I have to remember I have 3 pointing back at myself. And I don't want that. So I stopped pointing fingers at people. It's about me. I can't remember. Other people, right? That contribute to the barriers of me being able to successfully manage my stress. Other people might be bringing stuff on that is keeping me from doing that. Well, put up a barrier, turn myself into Swiss cheese, try and figure out what my process is. Make sense?
Yes, thank you. And as it relates to the book or the reference material that would further assist on the process, performance, and outcome stages, sorry.
I can. Let me do 2 things here. A shameless plug for one of my books that you can find on Amazon. It's a digital download, so you don't have to worry about bringing it in from the States or whatever and going down to the post office and have them open up and see it and pay your $1 or whatever it is to try and get through the duty and all that. Just download it. It's a digital download. I'll show it to you in a moment. What I find is a lot of people out there, whoever they are, and whatever qualifications, however they market themselves are, they will tell you things like, you know, you got stress, like just open the window and get some fresh air, go for a walk on your lunch break. Well, I know people that don't get a lunch break. Like fresh air isn't like, so let me ask you a question. Did the lack of the lack of yoga, I mean, I'm not saying don't take yoga, I'm not saying don't go for a walk, I'm not saying don't get fresh air, but this is not going to help you bring your stress down. Let me ask you a question. Did the lack of a gym membership, did the lack of a walk on the beach during lunchtime, did the lack of that, is that what contributed to your stress? You got stressed out because you didn't get to go for a walk on your lunch break for the last few days? No. So then how is going for a walk? I mean, as nice as it is, but how's going for a walk going to impact your stress? I mean, it might impact the symptom. Remember, we talked about the symptoms later, but I'm about the cause, and you are the cause, not your symptoms. So just because I didn't get to go for a walk for a couple of days because it's been raining out here, right? That's not going to affect my stress level. I mean, not long term. Might make me feel good, get some fresh air. Yeah, sure, great. Get out and stretch. So be careful what people are telling you when they're trying to tell you about how to regulate your stress. The lack of these things is not what caused your stress, right? Something else has caused your stress. If you want to, you can go on Amazon, you can get this book, you can look at my name, Chess Moulton, or you can look at this title, How to Get Control of Your Stress. You download this. Some of what we talked about today is in here. There's a whole lot more, and there's a great case study I put in there that I think a lot of you might be able to relate to. So that's the book that I would that I would encourage you to get, with that just topped up with lots of information, the same as what we've already talked here today in terms of how you can get control of your stress once and for all.
Okay, and our final question from Deborah Kelman. With multiple tasks to complete in short deadlines, which is more effective, time management or task management?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Where you're going to have your most success, well, first of all, you've got a list of things that your boss man or your boss lady has told you, you got to get these done by such and such a time frame, either today or by the end of the week, or before you take your break at Christmas, or by New Year, or, you know, by Arrow Barrow Day, whatever it happens to be. What you want to do then is to figure out, okay, how can I best get this done? Some of these are time, some of these are tasks. And which one am I more orientated towards? Am I a time management person, or am I a task management person? Then it comes down to just whether you're going to do the difficult ones first and do the easy ones at the end. In other words, have your vegetables first and have your ice cream later. Or whether, because you're a grown-up person, we can decide we want to have our ice cream before we have our vegetables. So it just depends whether you want to start off with the easy ones and end with the more difficult ones that you perceive will be more difficult, because they're maybe, if I'm task management oriented, which I am, I'm going to start with I'm going to have my ice cream. Most of the time I'll have my ice cream. I'll do the easy ones first, and then I'll do the difficult ones later. Not always, but most of the time I'll do the harder ones at the end. I'll have my vegetables at the end, as it were. Right. And I find that most of the time that works better for me, because then some people will say, well, do the hard ones first, get them out of the way, then the pressure is off. And then you can just breeze through the ones that you know are task management, because that's what you are, at task management. Fine and perfect. Yes. Sometimes I do that as well. It just depends on how you're feeling, what kind of pressures you feel you're being put under, and how you want to regularize yourself. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hand back over the session to Ms. Grisette. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Tanya, and thank you, participants, as well. We've come to the end of our webinar presentation for today. There was one other question that was posed by Deslyn Newton, but Mr. Moulton might have covered this because he spoke a bit about handling stress in the workplace. But her question, nevertheless, was, how do you handle work colleagues who constantly complain and thereby put you under stress? I don't know if you want to tackle that one.
Well, yes, briefly, right? Yeah, they don't put me under stress. They don't have control over me. It's how I'm interpreting what their output is, right? What's incoming. Yeah. So first of all, and that's been a consistent theme of what I've been talking about today. Sometimes I just got to go and talk to my line manager and say, look, this is the dynamic. What can we do to make this dynamic healthier in this environment, so we can produce more and do more and get more for everybody? Sometimes it just comes down to that. But in terms of organizing yourself, again, you'll have to reorganize yourself in terms of how you have a different experience. Again, boundaries. You might be putting something out. Yeah. But you can't give me stress. I'm going to choose how I'm going to take how I'm going to receive what you're putting out. And that's my God-given right. So you don't give me stress. You're doing, even if you're being malicious, but you're doing whatever you're doing, either on purpose or by accident. I'll just have to organize myself so I'm not bothered by what you're putting out anymore. That's for me to do, because anything else would be against the law. You understand?
Thank you again. We've come to the end of our webinar presentation for today. The link to the evaluation form has been placed in the chat. And thank you very much in advance for assisting us in improving and enhancing our webinar presentations. Your feedback is very important to us. I hope you would have benefited from the presentation this morning, and certainly one of the things that's really stood out for me, and Mr. Moulton said it from the beginning, is that we are responsible for the management of our stress and that we are the solutions to our stress. And those are two things that I will hold on to in terms of the presentation this morning. So a great big Bajan thank you to Mr. Chess Moulton. Mr. Moulton, indeed, it was a pleasure meeting you and collaborating and bringing today's webinar to fruition. Thank you very much as well to my colleague, Ms. Tanya Sinthill, who assisted and was very supportive in this webinar presentation and discussion this morning. And
You are
last, but by
welcome.
no means least, thank you so much, colleagues, for joining, because we know without you, the webinar would not have been possible. I just want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a very happy and healthy 2024. So take care and goodbye for now.
Thank you.